This is an interesting one. I think you'll like this one for us. We're going to talk to Jay calling to us from Missouri. Jay,
Hey, Jay.
You're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Yeah, well, I just got one more. The Bible says to love your neighbor as yourself. And so if it's anything, contrary to that, you could tell that people haven't read their Bible if they say that Christians don't care about racism or Christians hate gays. That's contrary to the Bible. So,
yeah, I would also say it's true that Christians were the majority slaveholders in the United States, and we're also some of the biggest proponents of segregation laws in the country. So I don't know if historically that's always been true.
Well, there were Christians that were fighting to free the slaves.
That's true.
So
yeah, that's also true.
I think that was fake. That just because you say you're a Christian doesn't, and if you're contrary to what the Bible says, then guess what? You're not a Christian if you're over there having slaves. And it's not can't happen, bud. Sorry to tell you that.
So
did you?
The issue that I would have though is that like you have, I get where you're coming from. It's the old no true Scotsman thing. You're not a real Christian unless you think about it the way that I think about it. The question I would point out is that like
it says. I didn't say that. I didn't.
Right, but you do know that Jesus not only talked about slavery but used slave parables in his speech.
He also said that he's not coming to change the law, but to fulfill it. And there's that whole part about the Bible that's about slavery. And then also that like everybody in the KKK is a Christian too. So they're reading the same book and getting something totally different. So also,
Paul says that tells slaves to obey their master. Well, actually, Jesus says for slaves to obey their masters and stuff.
These people are reading the same thing you're reading and getting a totally different message out of it. So I agree that part is in there, but there's a lot of other horrible stuff in there. And so like maybe the problem is the source.
Yeah. Maybe
we could just make a clear document that just says, "Hey, don't have slaves."
You got to read the whole Bible.
I know. I don't. But see, that's the problem. I think
and come to you have to read the whole Bible. You can't just take bits and pieces out of it. Sorry, you have to read the whole.
I know, Jay.
Like I said,
I know some people that have read the whole Bible and still believe that. Jay, listen, there are plenty of people in history that have read the whole Bible and have done atrocious, terrible things. I don't think it's just reading the Bible. It really comes down to interpretation. And while, yes, I agree with you, people will take some things out of context. No, Jay, listen. I got to put you on mute because you got to let me finish here, okay? I will agree with you that people will take things out of context, but I will also say that context doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it comes down to action, the majority of action. If 90% of Christians were racist, right, I would say that Christianity is a racist religion. I don't care if the Bible didn't actually say to be racist. Now, I'm not saying that the Bible says you should be racist. I do think there's some racist elements in the Bible, especially if you look at the Old Testament and see that, what was going on was nationalism between, different tribes and stuff. But point is, you can't say, well, they're not really this thing because this thing says this, because it's just this no true Scotsman over and over and over again. Now, I know Forrest, I think, enough to know that he's not going to make arguments that say, oh, you're a racist, or all Christians are racist, or all Christians do X, Y, and Z. But we still have to. No, but we still have to point it out when the connection is there, because it's there, and it's not just about racism. It's also about prejudice against homosexuals, prejudice against people of different faiths.
Whoop!
Can I talk? My turn.
Looks like Matt exploded. He's gone. The whole thing I would throw in there as well is that you're talking about you have to read the whole Bible in order to understand it. I guarantee that Fred Phelps and the Westboro Baptist Church have read the whole Bible. I would bet good money that these people have read the whole Bible, and they're still out there waving signs with the F slur talking about how God hates this and that. I guarantee that the Confederates had read the Bible. There's enough of them had. I guarantee that there are plenty of people that read the parts of the Bible that say that I can rape a woman and then give her father enough money and then she's my property now. Did they act on that or not? Oh goodness, is it in the Bible? So this idea that you just have to read it enough or read it properly. If I have over 1 million followers on watching me on TikTok right now. I have people that listen to the things that I say. I am very clear on TikTok. I talk about how homosexuality is natural and how it's not something that should be hated. I talk about how race is a social construct and how racism is wrong. If I had a bunch of people listening to me who are also out here saying, see, I listen to Forrest, and that's why I know that, you know, white supremacy is the right, and that gay people are evil and all that eventually falls back on me. I've done something very wrong that someone's able to listen to me and come up with that. I need to now be very clear to say, hey, guys, just point of interest. If you're racist, you're stupid. That you have to know that. And like that. And if I'm not doing that, that's my problem. So if you have this book that in one half says, hey, you can totally own people and use them as farming equipment. And if you rape a girl and pay her dad, it's cool. And sell your daughter into sex slavery, that's fine. And that gay people should be stoned to death, that's totally radical. But also, hey, love your neighbor as yourself. That's on you, champ. And then people are getting totally different messages. Whose fault is that? That's clearly the issue with the book that just clearly should have said, hey, by the way, don't own humans. Don't do it. Wouldn't have to have this argument with you right now.
It's true. It's true.
Well, just because you talk for 10 minutes doesn't mean you're right. And because the Americans that were slave owners were Democrats, and the Democrats always been racist.
Yeah, and what does the KKK currently vote for, if you don't mind me asking?
Been racist, and you're a Democrat.
Yeah, okay.
So you're probably a racist. So guess what?
I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that at all. Aside from the fact that, you know, we can't even talk about politics too much on this show because we are part of 501c3. We can historically point out that. Yes, there were Democrats that were racist. There's also Republicans that were racist. But are they pointing to a book for it? Like,
and also, like, the Democrats were the racist one, and then there was a party switch that's well documented. And even if that wasn't the case, you hit the nail on the head when you said, who are the racist people voting for today? How many racists are standing up being like, yeah, Bernie? And like, that's, that doesn't really track. And also, the last thing that the guy said, I don't know if he's still on the line or not.
He's still on the line. I got him on mute, but I don't know how much farther we can talk about. Originally, he wanted to talk about evolution. I thought we were going to go there, but this was
the last thing that he said was that if you're a Democrat now, you're probably racist. And like, I would love to see your data on that, because I'm not sitting here saying all Republicans are racist, and if you're a Republican, then you're because that would be an insane thing to say. I could say that depending on your voting habits, I could say depending on this, and that, and the other, but like, nah, man, that's a really weird, big generalization. Racists are racists, and racists are assholes, and racists have historically been the problem in history. If you're going to point to 200 years ago on their voting record and then try to equate it to now, I'm sorry, bro. That's a really, really weird and lazy argument to make.
Yep, it's true. All right, Jay, I'm going to unmute you again, but you are on thin ice, my friend. Okay, so let's make sure that we have a good conversation.
President Biden's always been racist, and you guys voted for him, but you guys want to point fingers at Republicans. And
how do you know? Wait, hold on, Jay. Do you have access to my voting history? How do you know I voted for him?
I guarantee you're an atheist. You vote Democrat. I guarantee you that.
Because
you hate religion.
That's an interesting man.
I hate to, you got like 5 words in, and I don't want to go on a whole other thing here. I want to hear you out, but like just to be really clear here. I want to point out 2 things about Biden. Number one, I don't like Biden either. I did vote for him because, and I am not exaggerating here, I would have actually voted for a half-boiled squirrel over Donald Trump, who is, well, I don't know how far I can go because it's a 501, but like literally anybody over would have been fine. He was the best option that we had, but I don't like him either. I think he's a terrible, I'm not into it. So, like, just because I voted that way to get us out of a crap situation, it's like if you have 2 buses and one of them's going kind of in the same direction as your hometown and the other one's going into a volcano, you take the one that's kind of going towards the town. Maybe you walk the rest of the way. You know what I mean? It's better than just saying, well, I might as well go into the volcano if this one isn't really going directly to my house, So, like, that's that, man.
I'm going to go ahead and drop the call because we are totally off tangent anyway. He wanted to know about evolution. And why we can't trust it because
Jay.
We wanted to talk about the Piltdown Man, and we didn't even get to that.
Oh, that's a cool conversation.
I know. We ended up talking about race. which is
race and Republicans and
just like way out of left field. I don't know
how weird.
There, yeah, you should explain what the Piltdown Man is, though, in case he does want to come back and listen.
So just really quickly, Piltdown Man, because I'm guessing I'm gonna paint you unfairly here, Jay. I'm going to assume what your argument was going to be based on the tone and the substance of the rest of the call. I hope that I'm wrong, but I bet you I'm not. Is that evolutionists is the word that people like to use, were wrong about Piltdown Man. That turned out to be a fake, and that it was proven to be a hoax, and therefore XYZ other thing in the fossil record is also hoax, or we can't trust science, or something else along those lines, because that's what it always is. So let's talk about what Piltdown Man is very quickly. I'll be as fast as I can about this. Be very succinct. Piltdown Man was a hoax in England. Some dude took an orangutan jaw, cut off the connections, and filed down the teeth to make them flat and look a lot like human molars as much as possible, and then took some chunks of a human skull that was particularly thick and boiled them in iron oxide and all sorts of other stuff to make them look like fossils, and then left them in a construction ditch. And an amateur paleontologist found them and was like, oh, flip, these are ape bones. Clearly, this is a new novel hominin. And they put it out for all of the other bioanthropologists and evolutionary biologists to see. And lots of people refuted it and debated about it. The dentists came in and were like, hey, these wear patterns are insane and make no sense. And all the scientists were like, shut up, dentists. And then
this is why we need to listen to our dentists more. Okay.
And then later on, better science came around, and we learned about fluorine dating, that fluorine soaks into bone, binds to calcium because it's super duper electronegative. And the longer a bone's in the ground, the more fluorine's there. And the fluorine on the jaw and the fluorine on the skull were totally different. And then this was clearly actually an orangutan jaw. Right. And so better science proved Piltdown Man wrong. Right. And what this teaches us is a couple of things. Number one, it teaches us an important lesson about the history of science, where at the time, it was all about who is the scienciest scientist, and that's why we didn't pay attention to the other fields when they were telling us, hey, this is stupid. Also, not as many people took it seriously as creationists like to claim. It's like Nebraska Man, which was the one with the pig tooth that they made a whole person. Most academic papers at the time were like very, very skeptical of this. Also, most importantly, it points to the racist history of science at that time, where, all these scientists were really willing to believe that the story of human evolution was African ape, African ape, African ape, white Englishman, and then humans came along. And that's weird. And so it's a valuable lesson. It's a valuable story in science. It taught us a lot of really important stuff. And now we have moved on. So why don't you? Is the whole thing there. And
the big thing to point out with a story like this is the reason why we know the Piltdown Man isn't real is because of science. We used science to figure that out. And that is true for every single other bogus science thing that's happened in history.
All the time.
Every single one.
Just a little bit ago, you probably heard, I think it was last year, they found phosphine on Venus. And everybody was freaking out about, oh my God, we proved life on Venus. See all the headlines, signs of life on Venus. And then scientists came along and were like, hey, these numbers are kind of dubious and weird. Let's check again. Oh, turns out it's completely different than what we thought. Maybe everybody can calm down now. Yeah. So that's the nature of science. It's just we find something out, we ask a bunch of questions about it, and when we can fail to reject something, that's when we move forward with it. And it makes you beg the question, man. What works? Dogma or progress?